guys, welcome back to the channel. This time I'm going to show you guys the basics of how I make a mold to cast some parts. Here we have a mold already done, and now I'm going to open it and you're going to see how it's done. This mold here was made with some MDF wood. It was a box that I cut and separated all parts so I can make the inside bigger or smaller depending on what I want to mold. I keep the parts together with some tape. That is enough to avoid the silicone from leaking here. And had to go open the door for my helper, but now we are okay. So let's open this mold and you'll understand. This here, it's putty. It's artist's molding putty, the kind that behaves itself like clay but will never get hard. It's a special modeling putty used by artists to create sculptures that they make molds of. And this is the basis for the creation of almost every single mold for casting a resin part. Here you're going to see why. Let's take it. Here we have the silicone of the mold. Let's take the tape off and open the mold. Yeah. And here what remains, it's just the box. Here we have the silicone mold for some parts, and here we have more putty that you see won't stick to the silicone. And let's remove the putty. And here you can see there is a little more putty. Let's remove it too. And here, embedded in silicone, are the parts that I want to cast. Now we just have to flex the silicone mold to release the parts. And in this case, pull the parts out. Alrighty, what we have here is the mold for making copies of the parts that are these two open wheels from the AMT 49 Ford kit. And I will make some copies because I want to use it on a 49 Mercury that I want to restore. Now it's just to make the copies, you just have to put the resin here and flex the mold while you put the resin to eliminate the air bubbles, and the resin will fill this little indentation here, so when it's dry and hard you can just pull it out and then cut the wheels from this base. But now for the main part. When you're making a mold, you need something to hold your parts, and that's why we use this putty. A lot of people use clay. How did I did this indentation here? I put this one layer of putty, a second layer making a little rectangle, and then I pressed the wheels here, one, and here the other, that I want to copy. Then I made a little dam right here, so I won't have to use all the length of the box, and close the box, and with this little part here made a space here I could use to put my liquid silicone in. If you were making a mold for something more complicated, let's say a tire, you would sink half of the tire here in this putty. You would sink half of the tire. You would close the box, pour the silicone here, and after the silicone was dry, you would disassemble the entire thing, take your mold of half of the tire, treat it with some demolding agent so the second half of the mold, also made with silicone, wouldn't stick to the first half, and you would just pour more silicone here without removing your parts, because now you are going to make a mold of the details that were buried into the clay here, into the putty. So this way you would make a two-part mold to reproduce a part. Of course, that with a more complex part like a tire, you would have to add, for example, you would have to add runners like this runner here, so it would be an opening on the mold in form of this runner to allow you to pour the resin into the mold via this runner, because your part has two sides. With a part that will only have one side, like these wheels, and the other side is flat, you don't really need a two-part mold, and you can get away with a one-part mold. And that's what I have here. I'll just pour resin here and I'll have the wheel formed. If I had a tire, I would need a runner, and I would need to make some little holes here to serve as guides, so the two mold parts would marry perfectly and without leaving you too much of a seam. The next time I made a mold for a tire, I'll do it on camera so you guys can see it. But the basic idea is this one. You just have to use a little putty, a little silicone, and a little demolding agent. Guys, thank you very much for watching and have a great week.